champions. Welcome to another episode of COT. We're going to start abbreviating it to save the time. Gentlemen, it's crazy to see. Well, you got to make it trendy and cool.
Okay.
That's what we're going to do.
That's great.
That's how you do it.
That's cool.
You make your own thing.
Make your own.
Gentlemen, how are you this week?
Great. Doing wonderful.
Oh, yeah?
I'm trying to see if COT is something that we should say in my mind, because I feel like that stands for something, and you probably don't want to do COT.
Champions of Tabletop. That's what
I
it
know
stands
what
for.
it stands for.
Does now. We stole it.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
ours.
Oh,
We
Okay,
dominated.
stamped.
It's been patented.
Okay.
Done.
But
Yeah.
I feel like COT is something that we. But hey, hi.
While you just did that, I patented it.
I already went
yeah.
on
see,
my
on
there
the
you
internet.
go.
Yeah.
Okay, there it is.
ChatGPT already got it done for me.
Oh,
It's
there
a
you
wonderful
go.
thing.
It
Isn't-
definitely isn't already an acronym for a cup of tea.
Okay, that's okay. It's not bad.
It's terrible.
That's
It's
not
terrible.
as-
We now own
It's
it.
not as
COT
bad as I
it
thought.
is.
Okay, then COT.
cup of tea.
Yep.
They're gonna forget
So the
that.
new-
You gotta,
Newly
do the,
accolade-
you gotta do the cup of tea.
The newly named COT, everybody. We've got a great show for you today. Before we get into it, of course, let's thank Voss Media Board Game Cafe in the lovely Galesburg, Michigan area. You know, before we get into this episode, I got to tell you guys, I don't know, like these clothes just don't feel right. So on the count of three, we're going to go and switch clothes.
Okay.
And then we'll get our episode started, all right?
All right, got
Makes
you.
sense
On the
to me.
count
I
of
got you.
three,
Yeah, I'm gonna wear the same
2,
shirt.
one. Let's go on to our first industry news topic. So, shortly before recording this episode, there was a big release in the technology field. Of course, the Apple Vision Pro came out. And honestly, I've always said that I think augmented reality is the future above virtual reality. Virtual reality is great to kind of block yourself off from the world, but from a practicality, from a business workflow perspective, augmented reality offers significantly more. And I think consumer friendly beyond virtual reality. But with that said, it kind of ties into, you know, what augmented reality can kind of lead into with the board game space. So we actually have had Resolution Games, who has already developed and now released a new game on the Vision Pro called Game Room, which has games like chess and solitaire and can't call it this, but Battleship, and a few other games in it. And there's a few other studios that have already hinted that they're going to be making some games for the Vision Pro as well. And so it kind of brings up the first conversation around what kind of place augmented reality and the AR headsets will have when it comes to a tangible physical board game. Shay?
So the texture of a board game is always, you know, a love that I have. Filling the cards and stuff. But with that said, I heard they're doing a Yu-Gi-Oh one. That you can have like the Yu-Gi-Oh thing. You can see all the monsters. I am completely 100% in. Like you don't understand. I used to buy those little things you put on like those dueling discs, and then now you can actually do it. And maybe if you can really think about it, you can get the physical cards and you can have it hit with the dueling disc, and then you see it pop up with the AR, so you can have both the texture and the VR. Texture and augmented reality. It'll be cool. But once again, I do just like a basic not around screens, just playing a game. So I am excited. I do want, look, if Apple wants to sponsor us and give one of us the Apple Pro and talk about how it's good for board gaming, I'm shooting my shot. Look, I am a designer who loves, like, do you understand how many horror games I can make if we can do it augmented reality? You know how epic those games will be even more. I'm just saying, look, I'm shooting my shot. My name is Shay. You can see me in the comments. Let's get this. Let's do this.
Good luck with that, Shay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Deal?
I want an augmented reality. I want one of those little stupid headsets. I just think that they're cool, and I like technology. I'm a big technology fan. However, I think board game brings something that, in this world of surrounded by technology, it allows you to unplug and communicate with each other in a way that is unlike any technology can do. And I'm a huge Xbox fan. I'm a huge PC fan. I play a lot of games. I probably own like 6,000 in my Steam account. I'm a huge fan of, but there's a place and time for that. And there's a place and time for board games. And I don't see the crossover for me personally interrupting the two. if I'm on my, do I think that augmented reality could create a great experience during a board game to where you're moving a piece and then a dragon comes out or whatever it may be? Absolutely. I think that would be neat. Although I don't want to, I'm a big stickler of like, you can't even play on your phone while we have it at the table. You know, in running a business, I find that difficult while I'm teaching a game and my phone will go off and then I'm like, sorry guys, because I'm mad at myself that I have to look at my emails or check, you know, make sure someone's not calling for the shop, something like that might be important that I need to handle. So I hate that. And I know people's got busy lives, but the greatest thing about board games is to disconnect, forget about reality even exists, augmented or not, forget about all reality and just lose yourself with a friend or with people at the table you don't know. It doesn't even matter. Just lose yourself with a group of people and just enjoy that moment. And I think augmented reality will find its, just like those tabletop simulators, they have a spot. You know, you can play with your friend in another city that moved away that was part of your board gaming group, and you still get that feeling, you know, playing Wingspan or something like that from a distance. But I still feel, to me personally, and this is just me personally, I could be totally off here. I could be wrong. Right? Yeah.
Brandon, do you have any thoughts? Especially as a big tabletop war gamer, you know, do you see a place for it, especially graphically, in that kind of place with a Free Blades or Warhammer kind of game?
I don't think it's at a spot where it's good for tabletop wargaming yet. Tabletop wargaming can come down to like millimeters sometimes. Like, oh, I'm just out from shooting your guy, or I'm just in from holding this objective. And I don't think even the best headsets right now have that kind of resolution to be like, oh, this tank is exactly where it needs to be on the battlefield. As like a fun gimmick or a cool gimmick, I think it's really interesting, and there's a lot of cool design space around it. Like if we were playing Arc Nova, and when you put animals in your zoo and you look down, the little animals were actually in the zoo, in the habitats. Or if we were playing, what's that space RPG that the four of us, not you, Matt, but there was four of us.
Ivan, why can't I think of? It's the space. It's Vanguard.
Yeah, ISS Vanguard.
Yeah,
if we had the ISS Vanguard, and like when we looked down at the map, you actually saw the little biomes and the people running up that arc where we're being chased by all those robots, and the ship comes down and picks us up. Like
Or
if that
while
was like happening in front of us, that would be cool.
Or while the visual, especially with games like Oathsworn ISS Vanguard, those games, it could really change.
Well, and that was going to be
space.
kind of my opinion on this, because even in some of the earlier videos that I've seen with Game Room, I think part of the problem you're going to have is, you know, this is going to be the thing that we're going to talk about in 10 years, like the Pac-Man. I'm going to call it the Pac-Man trademark.
I don't think you can trademark
Batman.
Sure, it's, you know, I just did. So
I just did. I don't think it was.
but I think if everything is digital, I think that this creates a lot of issues. Like, because I was watching and somebody was trying to play chess, and it was like they were kind of knocking the pieces around and all of that. So my opinion has kind of been, and again, this is why I think augmented reality offers something that, again, VR doesn't, is because augmented reality is taking reality and just juxtaposing graphics over what's there. And so my opinion would be, Brandon, and you hit the nail on the head, is I don't think it would replace you measuring things on the war game board. I don't think it would replace you moving your physical pieces. What I think could be cool is when you cast a spell, it shows the visual of the firebolt shooting across and digitally hitting the other piece that you see. Or to your point, the Arc Novas of the world, where you look down and when you complete something, you see your zoo with actual living, breathing animals where you have placed them. To me, I think that's where you can kind of get the best of both, because you're still going to allow yourself to have that physical, tangible thing that you can easily manipulate on a board without the constraints of the lack of depth perception based on where your fingers are with your Pac-Man. And I think that you add in those extra graphics that you just can't do in real life, that you can't have. As you talked about Yu-Gi-Oh, like what popped in my head is like a Flesh and Blood or a Pokemon, where you play your Pokemon cards and it automatically lifts up the Pokemon off the card. So again, from a game store perspective, you're still selling the game pieces. You're still having to buy the cards. It's just now you're getting that extra stimulation. And I hear what you're saying, Dion. You're trying to get away from screens. And I think especially the Vision Pro, I think aesthetically it looks ridiculous. And I think it's just it's going to be so much worse than what cell phones are.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of it, if you're just looking, especially if you're playing by yourself or maybe a 1v1 and you're just trying to look for the coolest experience, I think augmented reality could really be a boon for board games that I would argue would maybe bring even more people into the board game space, because there's a lot of people who would find them significantly more fascinating because of all that extra stimulation that you could get graphically. Brandon, did you want to add something over there?
Just a question. If we're talking about gaming and tech, is there any note on, you guys know like Google's AI button, their augmented reality assistant? So Google's coming out with looks like a Star Trek like tricorder thing.
Okay.
But it's powered like a smartwatch, but it's just entirely augmented. Google's AI assistant. You click it and you just go like, Google, what's the weather today? And it'll tell you what your weather is. Or Google, like, how far am I from XYZ? It's essentially Chat GPT on you, just in a little button form. But if they could get that to work with your augmented reality, you could be like, I know it's Apple and Google, so they're never gonna shake hands ever. But if anyone did what the other one's doing, you could just be like, hey, Apple, show me a movie. And then you're like watching a movie while you're playing a board game, or like how augmented reality goes in with the headset.
Well, because the reality is, I think when we are 15 years into the future, I think that the headsets we see today are prototypes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And they're going to look kind of like a normal pair of reading glasses. Aesthetically, you're not going to know the difference. But I remember a few years ago, I was looking through this article, and it was talking about an ad from the 1980s from Radio Shack. And it was like a picture of a cassette player and a video camcorder and a VCR and all this stuff. And then it had a picture of an iPhone. And it's like, this does all those things. And it was like the entire front page ad of Radio Shack. And I think, with what AR is going to do, especially now that you have a brand like Apple behind it, they're going to move markets. That's what they do. And I think that in 10, 15 years, the cell phone is going to be an archaic device that we laugh about like we do the Sports Illustrated football phone, which was the best phone of all time. We're going to no longer have, televisions. Computer screens are gone. Because they're going to be completely unnecessary, because workflow will be through headsets. Why would I have 2 big old school monitors when I can have 8 different screens in my headset through my glasses that I can see that show up as 55-inch monitors in front of me with better fidelity? So
maybe, but I don't think I agree with what you're saying. Everything you're saying is right on pack. But I also, you look at a board game, it can't compete with my PC.
Right.
Graphically, like interactively, you can't compete with that, but it still does. So you could say like the future is going to be flying cars all you want, but the realistically thing is people are still going to have to walk, right? I mean, it's a situation. People are still going to find enjoyment setting at a board game and turning board games even become more popular because you want to get away from all that, because you're on it all day. It's in your head. You're going home and you've got 6 different things going on. You want to just take that thing off and go, let's play Azul, or let's play Ticket to Ride, or let's play, something that we like to play together and just escape this for a minute of all this stuff that we're trying to be more productive all the time. And I think it's great. And in anything that can introduce more people to board gaming, I'm down 100%. Right. But I also don't think it will ever replace, because if you look at Monopoly, how long has that lasted? I'm not a Monopoly fan, but they still print Monopolies. Right. And people still buy Monopoly. And that's been around since what, like 1809 or some ridiculous thing like that? Isn't it like 1908 or 1809? It's been around forever.
It's been around for a while.
Again, don't quote me, but I'm just saying.
There were a lot of cowboys.
Like 1809 and 19. Like that's like 100 years.
I know it's
different,
100
right?
years
You're just
different. I'm just
spanning-
saying it's somewhere, and I don't know exactly.
So right after,
I think it's probably 1908 because it was like a 100-year edition.
right
not so
after
long
we
ago.
declared independence and won from Britain, we made Monopoly.
Well, I mean,
That
board
was like
games-
the
but
first thing
they're
Thomas
still-
Jefferson did. He did Declaration of
then
Independence.
he played Monopoly.
And
then he
then
played Monopoly.
he said, what
He's
better
like,
way
I
to
really
cap
like
this off
Payday, but we're going to do Monopoly
Sherry
instead. Yeah,
with
That's-
some Monopoly.
But they've done like digs and found board games from hundreds of thousands of years ago. So I mean, it's not like board games have lasted.
That's
Well, and
true.
like I said, I mean, there were a lot of cowboys who said, I'm going to always ride horses, even though Henry Ford made a Model T. But
I disagree.
but we
'cause
still moved away from there's always going to be horses.
But we've
we
never moved away
away
from board games. They've got
because the
better.
tech hasn't been there to move away from them.
I think it
And I-
has.
and I don't think
I think it's there now.
well, video
Yeah.
games. What sells
Yeah.
more?
Well, video
Right.
games is $1 billion company,
Correct.
but and I mean board games isn't far behind, but it's still there is, and even more so after COVID, where all you did was sit around and play video games.
Mm-hmm.
People really found a resurgence in like, oh, let's go play board. I mean, there was a huge resurgence of Gen Con, most ever. Every single event just keeps getting more and more because more and more people are becoming a fan. I am 100% behind to get more people into it. If it takes wearing a silly little headset and playing this little silly augmented thing and it gets them into a game,
'Cause Shay,
that's great.
you tell me you don't have your little headset on, and you're playing Heat, and now you move your car and just, tell me that's not
You
sweet.
got to understand.
Tell me
Like,
it's not sweet.
there's a movie
You're not
called,
telling me it's not
called
sweet.
Ready Player One, and those headsets looked exactly like the movie, and so I was already down before.
Oh, I
we
want
even
one.
did-
No, I want one.
But I also agree.
But
Like
that's not why I'm
but-
buying it.
no, but I also agree that like I do a lot of things that has to do with editing or looking at my phone or looking at a different thing or every social media. Then I'm trying to make music, whatever. I am on the computer or on a screen forever. I literally just like I'm saying install, but it wasn't like a big thing. I put a cell phone holder mount on my wall to literally plug in my phone and not look at it because I need that time away.
Yeah, right?
And so like I do want that augmented because again, I'm wholly down. I want my Pikachu. I want to see Pikachu zap Squirtle. Like I want that.
and then
'Cause-
turn around,
old
look
school.
at you, and just wink.
and it's like
Just a little joke between the two of you.
like Pika. Like I want that. But I need that. Like I need that break, and that's what board games can do. And so that's why it's like, yes, but I can't do it 100%.
I think the market would be huge. That's all.
The
I'm saying.
market will
I
be.
agree.
No, it will be.
And like I said, anything that can add when they started doing the board game simulators online and stuff.
Mhm.
Tabletop simulator.
Tabletop
board game
simulators.
arena.
A lot of people are like, "Well, that must make you mad." No, it doesn't make me mad at all. If that gets more people involved and it fills a gap of your entertainment, then
Mhm.
bonus. Let's run both. Right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah, because I was trying to. Shay, what was the game I talked to you about earlier? I'm trying to find it real quick.
It's
but-
called Vampires the Masquerade
Yeah.
Milan Uprising.
Yeah, because I had a chance to see that at Gen Con, and I think that's their second game. They already had one game out. Real nice guys, but their game is a physical board that you plug in, and then you run it through like your iPad or TV or something to that effect. And I mean, you roll your dice on the board, and it'll dictate. It can tell what you rolled on the TV based on the dice you rolled on the board. And as you moved your pieces around, again, it's changing the screen as well. So the screen is really reading what's happening. So it's, in a way, it's to the nth degree of an app-based game.
Right.
But I think that guys like that kind of are trying to look outside the box of board games, I think companies like that are going to run with it and say, oh, well, okay, we were doing this, but now let's do this because this would be way better.
I mean, 5 or 6 years ago, I went to Gen Con and they were like, "This is going to overtake all your board games." It was probably like 6, 7 years
Oh,
ago.
yeah.
And it was like this little TV thing that sets down and it uploaded, I don't know, like 400 board games in it. And you just
Oh, the
click the
arcade
button
one?
and then you could move your piece and it would know where you're at on the map, but it had like, it was a screen, right, that you put out instead of a board game. And it had every board game built in. So the setup was little, it would follow your rules. And they were like, "This is going to overtake board gaming." It didn't. They're still here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just saying, when I move my Vikings in Blood Rage, and then I watch a battle and decapitations and blood flying everywhere,
Yeah.
and a massacre right on my tabletop.
But who programs that? Like, board games are already on such a shoestring budget sometimes. Like,
Not his. He buys them
you're
Kickstarter.
gonna
So
well,
Kickstarter doesn't.
so yeah, if you get your Kickstart $1 billion or whatever, and then you go turn around and tell the people that we're not giving you anything, go to another company. That's one thing. But like, if you're trying to design a game and you're like, hey, it's gonna take $500,000 to design this game, and then you're like, oh, now we're gonna need to hire a programmer. And
they did
queue-
that Batman one that just came out was an augmented reality Batman one. It was with Harley Quinn and Joker, and it actually, like, when you're playing the game,
You have your cell phone.
you have like a cell phone you
Yeah,
hold
yeah.
up and it goes inside the like Gotham City or whatever. And it was pretty cool, but it was a Kickstarter. A bunch of people backed it. I don't know how, I haven't heard from it since. And that was a year and a half, 2 years ago, maybe.
And to that point, though, Brandon, I think the one thing is it's kind of the same thing of like, well, just because Apple makes a Vision Pro augmented reality headset doesn't mean every tech company is going to have the resources to do something like that. I mean, I think you're going to have winners and losers in every space, and I think board games is going to be no different. I think the Awakened Realms, the Stone Myers, the those 30, 40, 50 million dollar, anybody with Asmodee, I think they're going to just have budgets that will allow them to have access to programmers. And let's be frank too. I mean, here's the other part of it that goes beyond that is with artificial intelligence, the rapid nature that's growing, especially with programming. You're going to have AI that's going to be able to program this stuff for you probably in the next 10 years anyways. So you may not even need a big budget because you'll just have AI program it for you.
Well, can you imagine freelancers on a
It would be awesome.
Oh, it would be nice.
That'd be
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
And it would be hilarious.
It would be absolutely hilarious to see
So-
that
Like almost
guy
like a
see-
flip book
Yeah.
thing when you flip it and it all pops up.
Yeah.
They can
Yeah,
read like a
absolutely.
barcode. Like they already, because
It would be pretty
That'd be
epic.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I said, I don't think it needs to take over every game. I'm just saying
Right.
I think it could visually enhance a standard board game in a really unique way that would give it such graphical fidelity and again, so much dopamine input that I think it could really,
possibly
enhance
be
the industry quite a
it
bit.
could be.
So. All right, well, let's hear your thoughts. Feel free to leave those in the comments below. What role do you think augmented reality will play in the future of board games? Definitely want to hear your input out there, so definitely comment below and let us know what you think. And if it's a good comment, we'll make sure that we'll read it in our next podcast. So with that, gentlemen, let's move on to something that is extraordinarily new board gamer friendly.
Oh.
Our good friends at Van Ryder Games have announced a brand new game coming out summer of 2024. And this is a really unique game. It's going to be called Gateway Island. Can't think of a better name for this. And what's so unique about this game is that it's basically going to be 21 new games in a small box. And every game is going to be a small game highlighting one of the current day new types of mechanisms that most board games today use. And I'll be honest, gentlemen, when I first heard about this, I thought it was incredibly fascinating because board games is such an intense language to learn.
I agree.
Mhm.
And it has such a hard, difficult entry point that I think a lot of people get scared away from the hobby when they get 45-page rule books. And so a game like this can help teach the language. So, gentlemen, what are your thoughts of Van Ryder? Brandon's shaking his head. Let's go to Brandon first. He's angry about this.
I don't know. I think this is a trash idea. Hey, okay, so
Wow.
okay, I know, hot take. When I go to 31 flavors, I don't walk in and say, "Can I have a sample of every flavor?" Because
I actually
eating
do.
a thing, I know I'm going to go in and I'm a basic bee, so I'm going to get some vanilla, put some chocolate on that, and walk out. I want I know what experience I want. I'm going to get a game that gives me that experience well. I'm going to play it with my friends and I'm going to leave. I don't want 64 half-assed games so that I can get a good deck builder, to teach baby's first deck builder, and then I got to pull out baby's first dice roller, and then baby's first. And it's a bunch of games I don't like because it's no game, just a mechanic to hold your hand. Get Dominion, get Arc Nova, get a game that
Can't
hold on.
disagree.
I'll
with
tell you
him
this
more.
real quick. No flavors makes Brandon a dull boy.
I can't disagree with Brandon more. Being in this industry, I get a lot of people that want to step into it and they're very overwhelmed when you walk in, and I have 900 different games on my shelf. I have over 1,500 over here that you could pop and play, and I've got to figure out, just by talking with you, what games have you played? Well, I like Clue, and I do play some, we used to play Yahtzee a lot, and well, do you like dice rolling? Do you like deck building? Do you like engine building? Maybe you'll like this game. Maybe you'll like that game. And I've been pretty good at hitting some out of the park. That's why I'm still in business. But it would be awesome to be like, listen, here's some homework. Take this home. It gives you an introduction to all the different mechanics. And then come back and tell me which one you like. And I could find a really good game to go with it. Mm-hmm. Right? We go to the library up here and we do what we call Board Gaming 101. And we start with basic games of like, here is Dominion. This is deck building. We play it. Then we go, this is, dice rolling. And we play again. Well, this is a worker placement. We'll play Stone Age or Flamecraft or something very simple worker placement type of mentality. This is set collection, And they go, I really liked, getting all these trees in front of me and collecting this set that scores well in the after. Oh, that's a set collection game. You'll like Wingspan, you'll like, and I could really push in that direction. And people go, well, gosh, you got 1,400 games. How do you know them all? There's only like 15 different mechanics in a board game that's been around forever. Mm-hmm. And so once you learn that mechanic, it's just, how does this game use that mechanic? Mm-hmm. And it's easy to go, oh, I know this game uses the mechanic because it takes this and does this and moves it here. And then this, you place a worker and then you get that action or whatever it may be. Action selection with worker placement or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And I think people knowing that puts them into or being educated. I went online because I'm doing an education thing. Mm-hmm. I went online to try to find a way to introduce teachers to board gaming. And we've got a whole educational department that's working on that. And one of the problems that we run into is they don't really understand the basics. And this is the basics. You can be like, here's the basics. It's really simple, really easy to pick up, and you get you into it. Now, someone like Brandon who plays a lot of games, like me who plays a lot of games, I'm not going to buy it. Right. I know exactly.
But it's not for you.
It's not for me. It's a gateway, right? It's a get them into the industry. I'm going to do what Brandon says and go, oh, they released this game? I'm going to go buy that game because I know what I like already. Mm-hmm. I've been here, done that.
Rosetta Stone is not for you to learn English. You already know it.
Not very well.
Sort of.
Yeah.
But Rosetta Stone Japanese is phenomenal if you want to learn
even
Japanese.
Like the 5-year-old Japanese, even like the what is it, the leapfrog Japanese system, right? Yeah. Like, hey, I'm down. I got to start there because I don't know it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So I actually agree with most of what Dion said. I think that him and I share a lot of okay, if I want to teach somebody mechanics of a game to figure out what they like, I want to give them a game that the game was designed to be a good game and it uses a mechanic, not because I could see them using taking this baby's first deck builder and then them realizing they don't like it because there's no game there. It's only meant to teach deck building. And then you could have given them Dominion, which is a great deck building game and a good game built with deck building. And then they realize, oh, I love it. Because I could have played a plethora of the deck building games out there and been like, I don't like deck building, and not realize I just don't like those games because they're bad games.
When I go to go ahead, Shay, you've been waiting.
See, patiently.
Well, his hands were shaking quite a bit there.
Because I see this application of this game isn't for people to play the game and get it. I want I'm buying this game for my nephew because he wants to be a game designer. That's how I see it. I see it as okay, this is how you do. You can teach somebody, if this game is good, you can teach a whole class with that game as the thing you start off, and then you can bounce it off to a different game to show it. But I see this game as the best little, I'm going to teach middle schoolers or high schoolers, how do you make a game? What kind of game mechanics can you use? Okay, we see it here. Let's see it in a big application. And then let's go on. Okay, you want to make a game like this. Here you go, you do it. So I see the game as a beautiful beautiful game to give to people who really wants to make games.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing,
or,
like
or
when
a
you
design
walk,
class,
or
or something
design
like that.
class.
when you walk
Yes.
in, when you walk into a pub or a microbrewery, great
Mhm,
example.
mhm.
We live in Michigan. We've got some, Bells and
Mhm.
some of the
Ton of
best
them.
ones in the world. But if you've never had them before, what do you always do? Get the sampler. Give me a little taste of all the different beers, and I'll get a flight of them. And now I get a chance to try them all and see which one that I like, and then I'll commit to that. And to me, what I feel like this game is to the point. What, Dion, would you say the average cost of a normal game is? You said $60 before, right?
It's probably within in there. I think
$60.
they're
So-
doing a lot better of putting really good games in a very good price point and being very competitive.
Okay, so if we say
yes, I
$60
mean 40,
is on
40 to
average.
40 to 60, 40 to 70.
Well, I
somewhere in
already
there.
did the math, so I'm going to use 60.
Okay.
So if you take 60, and now you got to buy 20.
what I said.
You got to buy 20 because you already said it in the past. That's why I was using it.
Okay, gotcha.
But if you take $60 a game, and now you got to buy 21 games to get all those mechanics, to learn the mechanics, that's over $1,200 you've got to spend. Whereas here, you're going to probably spend $30, $40, $50 to buy one game, and now you have access to learn 21 mechanics, which again, for people who play these games, it's not for you. But somebody like my wife or my kids, it's easy to sit down
for
and
children, it's going to
say,
be amazing.
sit down and say, hey, let's try this. Do you like that? Okay, you liked that. Great. Let's try this game now. I
But-
think that's exactly what it's for, and I think it's a brilliant idea.
There's two holes in your scenario that
I'll
you
patch
built.
'em up.
Well, one of the holes is when you get a sampler, they
Mhm.
don't give you a crap sampler, and then you're like, oh, I really like the wheat in this one. Bring me the heavy wheat. I mean, you get that alcohol, just a small bit of it.
Right.
So it's like giving you Dominion, but a small taste.
Right.
That I'm not saying that they're going to put Dominion in the box. I'm just saying, from what Brandon's point is it's not going to be as good
No,
of a full
but it's not
experience.
trying to be.
But
But when you take a drink of that's, you're going to get just more of that. You know what I'm saying? It's a little different with your analogy there. The second analogy that you had is you said $60, which is the price I gave you, yes, for a basic game. But most of these starter games, like Azul, like Ticket to Ride, well, Ticket to Ride's probably up there now. But most of the basic games are lower priced and
What's
entry
the low
level.
price mean? $30?
30 to 40.
Okay,
I
so
mean,
you're still over $600.
You're still a good chunk. And
Yeah,
I think this will allow people to figure out what other people like.
Right.
Like this would be a collection at my house. One, because I think it's important to teach my kids the different mechanics.
Right.
And, my 8-year-old and my 6-year-old, I think that would be good to sit down and go, this is dice rolling and this is what it does. And this is, this is the whatever basic. And it can be like Brandon said, baby 101. And also good for people who are looking to break into the industry or break into not the industry, but break into the board gaming gateway. That's what it is, Gateway Island. It's a gateway drug that you can give them and say, this has everything in it. Come back and tell me what you enjoyed, and I can show you a better one of that.
Right. I'm just
Right.
saying, like, if you sit down and when you get together with your game group and you're playing, you're playing games like Blood Rage and you're playing tabletop war games, you're not going to just randomly show up one week with Flamecraft. It doesn't mean that Flamecraft isn't right for the right audience. And to me, that's what this game is. It's not made for every audience. It's made for the right audience,
agree.
which is
I agree.
the group of people who say, hey, here's a cheap gateway into having access to all these different things to learn and get exposure to see what we like and what we don't like in a very economic way, where we don't have to commit a ton to say, yes, I like the idea of chucking dice. Oh, yes, I like the idea of worker placement. Oh, I like the idea of stealing or, risk-taking or push and pull. I mean, there's so many different things that, to me, for the cheap cost, it just, like I said, new
I don't
gamers.
know what their cost is.
I
gonna
don't know
be.
what the cost is
I
either.
can't imagine it's going to be much, but
I
'cause
imagine
most
it's not
fan
gonna be
writer
over.
games aren't
Well,
that
No,
expensive.
I agree, and they
Most
did such
fan
a
writer
good
games
job.
aren't
Yeah,
with
that's
that.
that's fair.
Okay.
That's fair.
So you're right, Matt. You said a lot of right things. Is it cheaper to get this game or to get 4 months of a membership to Voss Media and then just
Hey,
play
yo,
a bunch of
but-
games?
I like
But
your
who
dance.
has that, though?
But
Like,
not
most people
everybody
don't have
have
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not everybody has.
I like the way
Media.
you think.
No, but they have
Brandon
they
wins.
have like game cafe or
Most
a-
don't.
I mean, on the side of the
That's
Maybe
the thing.
not.
Most places
That's a see. There's not a lot of because we are I would say we are blessed to have places like this
Oh,
because
thanks,
there's
man.
not a lot of places
There
like
isn't,
this.
and a lot of them went out of
And-
business after COVID too.
Exactly.
So,
And so we have to look at the lens of not just like where
Somebody
we're
in
coming
Spain
from.
doesn't have this. Somebody
well,
in Portugal
actually,
doesn't have
Europe
this.
has a lot of these.
like
but-
somebody
Yes, I know
in
what you're
like
saying.
this is a good
but
case in
somebody
point.
in
Like
middle Indiana doesn't.
my-
have Kansas. Yeah.
my
Mhm.
little
Yeah,
nephew
Kansas, yeah.
who loves games, who wants to get into more games, he loved Dice Throne, right? And so he messaged me and he was like, "Oh, hey Uncle Shay, where can I get Dice Throne around where I live?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, let me check around," right? And there's like maybe one shop, and I looked into it and they didn't have that much.
No, it's
carry
probably
thing.
a card shop that only carries Magic and
right.
And some Asmodee
and
games.
so-
yeah, that's about it, right?
And so, like, we don't have, like I said, we don't have what we have here. And so we're not going to have those people who can be like, oh, let me try this game to see if I like it. They'll have to spend money. And if the first game they play is not good, like it's not, or not even not good, it's not up there, like not their cup of tea.
Yeah.
And that's why that's why I love this game concept. I have to play it,
Yeah.
obviously. But
And hopefully
if-
the games aren't bad.
Right,
Like hopefully
I
they're
think-
good enough to give
well,
you
I
that
think they're
little
gonna be
taste.
21
Fan
mini
Rider-
games. That's what I'm thinking.
Most-
like
Well,
21 little mini games.
They said they said small game or in a
Yeah.
small box. But
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
guess what?
hopefully
Mario Party is a massive hit, and it's literally
Yeah.
all just tiny, crappy little mini games.
Yeah.
yes, but I mean, but it's one big game. This is hopefully it's not 21 different elements in one game.
Yeah,
I
I
don't think
think-
so. I think it's 21 different games.
That's what I'm thinking too.
That's what they've said.
which
yeah.
is good. I don't know if there's 21 different mechanics. They probably know better than me because they're designers and I'm not. I only know like a 15 different mechanics that I can name or I've done research enough on of education that 15 to
Maybe they
16 of them.
invented 6.
Maybe they invented 6 of their own and was
or
like
they might separate a couple things together. Like it might be
Yeah.
like, 'cause there's a deck builder, but here's back builder, and here goes things. So they might be like the same concept of you building your whole thing, but it's the same.
Gotcha.
thing.
Maybe,
So
maybe.
it could I
and
can
then
see
really,
that.
if they use it as a teaching tool, I think it's a great. I think it's
I
an
think it's a
amazing
great
idea.
idea.
Nobody's
I've
done
been
it.
begging for something like this.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
nobody's
have
done
too.
it.
There's been a Kickstarter that I wanted to it was going to. They canceled it, and I don't know what happened.
I
the
backed
back
that
then.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
they
was
gave me
like-
my money back.
Yeah, they
I
but-
backed it
so-
because it was made for schools
Mhm.
and it was
Mhm.
made for it was designers. So it was made for a design. You could teach board game design with this
with
game.
this game,
And
but
it was really cool. It
it was really
unique.
cool. But they dropped it, so I see this. I was instantly was like, oh, I wanted to teach my nephew this how to teach
Yeah.
games.
I think it's good.
Boom.
Yeah, and like I said,
So,
I
yeah.
just to wrap it up, I think at the end of the day, it's a unique concept. It doesn't really exist in the marketplace, and board game language is incredibly intimidating for a large contingent
I
of
agree.
people who don't get into the hobby because it is so overwhelming for most games to get in. Even the simple games that we can teach in 5 minutes, Shay and I have even played a couple where when I first sat down, I'm like, oh gosh. But when he walked me through the quick mechanics, it was far less daunting to me than what I looked or felt initially when I looked at the instruction manual.
Yeah.
And so that's a game we ended up playing that I probably wouldn't have had I had to read the instructions and learn the game myself. So that to me is the nice thing of what this potentially can do. But we'll have to wait and find out this summer.
Right.
So again, leave in the comments. Tell us what you think about Gateway Island. Is it something that you think has a place in the industry? Are you excited about it? Or like others, do you think it's garbage and better off not coming out?
And I do have to shoot my shot. Where's my camera? Van Ryder, look, I've been talking about your games at this shop so long. Look,
Keeps being shotted.
look, you gotta shoot your shot. Look, I am a great ambassador for your games, and even though I want to play this game anyway, look, if you want to, hire me as somebody who goes to, to help bring out your games, I can shoot my shot right now.
Oh,
Look,
I'll have a very good relationship with them on this one.
Oh,
Because I can already see it going perfectly with my educational program that we're launching here locally. So
So yeah, just you find my
I'm sure
contacts
they'll
in
have
the
some
comments.
work for you at Gen Con if you want it.
There you
So-
go.
there you go.
All right. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up industry news for this week. A couple great topics and a lot of great conversation. Again, don't forget to comment below. So with that, we gentlemen are, as Shay likes to say, bring me to my camera because gentlemen, it's time to get dirty. It's time for it to get ugly. It's time to rumble because, boys, we're going to
Gotcha.
There it is.
I don't feel comfortable here at all anymore. This is my shop.
Juice flowing right now. It's all the testosterone.
Okay.
All right. So this week's pit question is an age-old question. Shay's very excited about this one. So Shay, you're gonna go last.
No, it's fair.
And so this week's question, Brandon, I'm gonna start with you.
Okay, can you ask the question?
Well,
Yeah.
I was leading in. I was just prepping you because I know we gotta make sure you're listening.
Well, consider me prepped.
You are prepped.
Wow.
Fluffed. All right. So with that said, are board games art?
Yeah. Yes, they are. Objectively, by the definition of art, which I can bring up. I think I've brought it up here. The definition of art. Here.
This is great. Time filler here.
The expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in visual form, such as painting, sculpture, producing of works, or other appreciated primarily for their beauty or their emotional power. I don't think I've ever played a game and not felt an emotion, be it competition, anger that I'm losing, sadness, joy that I'm beating Dion. So it is an action that produces a thing in front of me, a board game, a moving of pieces, a creating of a tableau, a built of a deck, and it invokes an emotion. Action, object, emotion, it's art.
Dion?
Well, I don't think I could follow that. I don't. If you say Ian O'Toole is not an artist, I will slap the taste out of your mouth right here.
Play that music, Brandon.
If I will march on stage.
The Rococo.
I didn't say that. I just said Ian O'Toole, which is amazing as an artist. Anyway, he just does my kind of art. Yes, absolutely. There's so many expression in every board game that you play. I can't argue that it is not a piece of art in some form. Why do they call them designers? I don't understand why that's a thing if they're not designing or being artists in something.
People who design cars, are they?
They're absolutely artists. Absolutely.
I'm sorry, but the Yugo was not art.
That was, well, it was art to some.
There's bad art.
Pinto
Yeah,
was
you
not
could do
art.
bad
art. You
art.
could do bad art.
You could do bad art. It doesn't have to be good art. Everybody doesn't have to like your art. And that's a proof. You could put a board game down. I could love it, and you could absolutely hate it.
And I think because this is based on 2 videos that I've seen on TikTok. What one person was saying is like how we are, how our games that's being designed are based on like it's getting commercialized because those particular games get made, and so we are not being able to make other games. And then the other person was like, oh, but it's not fine arts, it's more commercial arts, and we love the fine arts. But so it's just a topic of, is games actually like an art piece? Like, is games actually like something meaningful for the world like art does? Or some art does, and is it or just commercialized? And so that was really the argument they were having. And I know I say this game a lot, but I can imagine 10 Candles being an art piece on the feeling of decay and trying to come in peace with the world that's ending around you. Like, I can see art in Magic the Gathering because of the fact that it's been going on for so long, but the mechanics itself makes it that it could test the time and still keep producing things. Like, you can use Magic cards to make a computer.
Richard Garfield is a genius artist. He's an amazing artist.
And then the art, because I'm not even talking about the art itself. Because
I'm talking about Richard Garfield, just the creation of what he did.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
30 years this card game has been going on. 30 years a card game. People are still buying it to this day. Not as well as they did before, but
yes.
probably better in some cases online. But anyway, I'm not getting into that. Anyway, an amazing artist. But to go back to what you were saying between the two types of different art, I wouldn't look into it too deep. I mean, anything that gives you escapism that somebody puts their heart and soul into, I look at as art. It's a piece. It's something you created. And kind of being selfish here, I think Voss Media Board Game Cafe is a piece of art. It is something that is not around here. It's something that is rare. I put my heart and soul into it. I've built it to where it is. So, I mean, it's your everyday job, I guess, if you put into it's a piece of art to you. You care, it does something for you. It brings you emotional. So I don't know what the pit is about, I guess, because it's just.
It was more of if is board game. Well, the reason why I brought it up because I seen those two videos and I was like, is because it's more of the designer aspect of okay, we're gonna have almost the exact same type of games because it's going to be only pushing to the.
But there's billions of games, and there are some really crap ones that just throw an IP, Top Gun, and.
I'm sorry.
But there, you know what I'm saying? Like there are some that will be the commercialized piece of crap, and that's just the way it is. It doesn't mean that someone doesn't play it and go, "This is amazing," and if that's the way they feel, that's awesome. But it still evokes some sort of feeling. I've looked at art and been like, "This is crap art."
Well, let me ask a question, just because somebody needs to play devil's advocate.
Okay, shoot.
If you look at a chessboard, is chess itself art?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Or are the
100%.
chess pieces art?
Both.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, if even ironically, based on the definition of what art is, the guy who is complaining about it and complaining about feeling an emotion about board games not being art, by definition, make it art. He saw a board game and the board game made him feel something, and therefore, by definition, that is art.
Again, I don't think his take was that board games aren't art. I think he was looking at it more of one. He was talking about like how he wasn't saying that it wasn't art. But how he was defining it was that you can't really have fine arts games. You have to have commercialized games because nobody will buy the fine art type of game.
I got a whole bunch
I
of fine art games that I would love to teach him if he would ever in the area.
But then again, he knows a lot of games, so that's why it was a hot take. I'm like, what? No,
because there is commercialized games.
Because
there is a ton of that out right now, especially now with the ability to be like throw an IP on it. Let me hit my nostalgia, whatever. It's very easy to be a commercialized game, but it's still art. I mean, there's some fine. If you're talking about fine art and not fine art, then absolutely between the board games, you're going to get a better board game and a fine art. That you pay $100 and something for those games. I sell my fine art here for $112 to $100. And I'm not going to mention them because I mention them all the time. But $150.
What does he make it within a game? Does he make
He's
the
the
mechanics?
artist, but the mechanics.
Hold on.
Vitel Lacerda.
But what did he? No. So Ian O'Toole.
Mm-hmm.
What did he
Amazing.
do with your favorite games?
He
Drew the pictures.
Not just drew the pictures, but he created the atmosphere.
Yeah.
When
So
I play a
he
game,
drew the
I am.
pictures.
Well,
No,
yes,
I mean, he drew
He,
the art.
he made the
Yeah.
pieces, shaped the pieces and stuff, right? That's what the artist did.
Mhm.
So who made the actual mechanics of the game?
Vitel Lacerda. And a lot of
And
them.
he's not
maybe
identified as the artist of the game.
He
though, is
should
He
He
said-
damn well
he's
should be.
the
He's not.
He's an
designer.
artist.
But he's
not.
the
He's a hell of an
designer,
artist.
which the
Designer.
designer is
Designer is art. Another
just,
art form.
just trying to play some devil's
That's
advocate
fine,
here
but you're wrong.
of,
That's okay.
of the fact that an artist is hired and an artist does the graphics. Like when I look at Magic the Gathering, I let you guys have 5 minutes to talk. When you look at Magic the Gathering, you have a card. When you put that card down, the art is the picture. To me, that's what art is. Now Brandon's going to say, well, here's the definition. It invokes a feeling. But I would also look at it as just a basic mechanic of something. And I think it just comes down to what you want to define as what true art is. Because
That's fair.
the problem with art is it's so subjective. Because you can sit here and say, well, here's the definition. But we live in a world where we're constantly changing definitions. So, to me, it's like that is something that art is in the eye of the beholder, right? And I think that you could make the argument that the art is the graphical side of it. And the mechanics are just that. They're the mechanics.
But I see what you're saying.
My mechanic is an artist, by the
But-
way. So
it is the way, because as we talked many of times, there are about 15 to 21 different mechanics.
16 through 21 is a question, but they're there.
But it is the way, and that's why I brought up earlier 10 Candles and how I described it, because that wasn't the art of it. That was the actual mechanics that evokes that feeling of decay and of how the life is happening. It wasn't the pictures, because there's only like one actually art piece on it. It's a cover. They have like little logos, but like how you have to use that in this narrative story is really
Is creativity art? That's what you're asking. I mean, that's realistically, is being creative, is that art?
Yeah, it's defines, what part of art do you define as art?
So
And again,
you
here's the
building
thing, like,
a
I'm
element
just
of
trying to
some
play
sort.
devil's
I know
advocate.
you are.
Because it's no fun if we're like, yeah, it's art. Okay, moving on.
But it was more of a
Somebody's got to try to mix it up
but
here a
You're
little
wrong.
bit.
That's okay. You can fight to be wrong on the devil's advocate side, but you really see it. It's common sense. It's if you're creative, it's an art. You're being creative. That's what artist. You're giving a feeling to someone somewhere somehow, or you're putting your heart and soul into it. So you're putting feeling into whatever you're being creative on. I can disagree and be like, that turd you left on the side of the road is not art, but you feel it is, right? Because you really spent time on
I've
it.
been to some art festivals, and I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Art's
So-
a very loose term.
Exactly. So I mean, with like you're saying, with the element of putting it down, yes, I submit in my brain, ooh, the art on this is pretty. However, the art of that creation that you made, or that feeling that you're giving two players going head to head and being competitive, or that invoking that element, you could remove the art from the front. And granted, it probably wouldn't be as popular as it is, but the game would still be fun because of the development of the creativity of playing the card or doing whatever it says on the card and then getting to do whatever else. You can remove all the art from every Magic card, and granted, you'd piss a lot of people off, but it would still be a very creatively done game.
Yeah.
And I'm not a Magic
So-
fan at all.
so with that,
I'm not a fan of that. But
Leave your comments below. Let us know what you think. Is art and board games interlocked forever in a beautiful wedded livelihood together? That was a horrible ramble. All you think is I bet you feel like Comic Hunters is going to be art.
I think that means the
next level of art.
That's but
All right, so let's move on to our game of the week. This is our chance to highlight one of our favorite games or something that we've played recently that we're really excited we want to share with the audience. So, Shay, if you want to go first on this one.
got you. Let me reach for it. My game of the week, the game that I will run. Person who said I'm not going to run it very soon. I'm calling shots. Talking about I'm always wrong.
I'm sure somebody in California is like, okay, cool.
The Walking Dead universe RPG. People, this is made by Free League. I heart Free League, and they use the same system as they use in Alien, which is this cumulative D6 system, and it uses like you have to roll the D6, and if you get like 6, you're good, but 1, it'll cause stress, and there's like stress tables about what happens, and you do that with the Walking Dead universe. Like you have those stories of like civilization at any point that you want to put into the Walking Dead universe, the AMC Walking Dead universe. You can go right at the strand of it. You can go right at like years, maybe even like 100 years after, and just seeing how the world is, and it seems like it's gonna give a great story with it, and they made it different. Like stress, you have to go back to your haven, whereas other games that use the system, you can calm down your stress then, like at the place. It has a whole bunch of different tables. It's got a solo play version on it hooked up in the back that you can actually go for it, and that's what I'm going to try to run one of these days too. But my game of the week, the Walking Dead universe role-playing game.
Nice.
All right, Brandon, you got one over there?
Yeah, so game of the week for me is going to be Great Western Trails, New Zealand.
Oh, that was a Golden Meeple Award winner.
Yeah, it's fun. It's got everything that Great Western Trails does well, and then on top of that already great cake, they've just frosted it with a bunch of boats and sheep.
You say boats and hoes. I was like,
So it's all. I mean, the worst thing about that game is having to teach someone who's never played Great Western Trails before.
Yes.
But other than that, if you got everybody who likes Great Western Trails or has played Great Western Trails, and you're like, hey, it's that game plus some, that and all that sum is still good. So
Well, what you do is you get that 21 games by Van Ryder and teach them the 4 different styles of the game puts into that, and then
yeah, so exactly when I invite my friends over once a month for 3 hours, I'm gonna waste an entire get together just to teach them 19 mechanics that they hate to find the 3 mechanics that they like when I already knew 2 of the 3, and we could have just played another game that was actually good.
no, yeah, good
You
point.
don't even know if it's going to be bad. Like, he's already gone. It's a great game
That's
itself.
horrible.
Oh,
I love Brandon. Oh, I get to go next? Mine is a game that I just got in, Star Wars Unlimited, Spark of the Rebellion. Of course, this is the 2-player starter. We've got a few of those for the store. Just came in Friday, I want to say, and I've been nonstop playing it all weekend. So very excited to teach this coming up Saturday, a learn to play with these, because I love to teach the game. It's a lot of fun. It's almost like Magic Commander done better, I think, because it has a
How
huge
big
Star Wars
decks do
fan.
you have?
It's 50 card decks. You also have a base and a commander or a leader. I like the way it plays. There's a couple issues that I have with it. I don't think it's a perfect done game, and there are some flaws that I've seen already when playing the game, I felt. But I am very excited for this. I went way overboard. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I love the fact that they've already. I'm a little nervous that it's Fantasy Flight, because they've done me wrong
we've
in
had
the
this
past.
conversation on past podcasts.
And I'm a little
about
nervous that
how does
the
it play
releases.
compared to Destiny's?
Well, it's not really anything like a Destiny's type of game, I think. Destiny's is more, I would compare it more to like Magic Commander.
Right.
Or even somewhat Loracana-ish a little bit with some of the, like, I get to ink my own, but it's supplies. I like the turn mechanism that goes back and forth. There's a point where I get to do an action, you do an action, I do an action, you do an action. We just keep going back and forth until you go, I'm done this turn. And then I claim initiative for next turn, which I really like that a lot, because I might have 3 or 4 plays that I want to do before I'm done with that turn, because I've really figured out a way to move things around on my board or attack certain creatures or attack certain areas with the ground battle or the space battle and be able to untap those to put them back in play and use them again. So I figured that out with the hand that I've gotten. And you might be like, I'm done and I got 3 more things I can do, which I love that feeling.
What's the win mechanism?
What you're trying to do is destroy each other's base. So that is one of the problems I have with it. Other than Sentinels, I can't really throw anything in front of my base to stop you from attacking it. And if you play online, they have an online version of it. I don't know if it's supported by them or not, but I've been playing it ever since they announced it online. I won't drop the website because it's probably not supported by them. But anyway, when you play online, you play against AI, and AI just goes after your base every time, like 100% after your base. So you have to do the same in return. However, when playing it
Pure
against
aggro game.
yeah, well, when playing it against another player, they're making sure you don't get overwhelmed, so they're attacking your people that you put out as well, your rebels or your Imperial soldiers. But the way that the cards work off of each other, like if another Imperial soldier's on the map, give them a +1/+1, or that type of thing. And it's a very simplistic game. I think the cards all read really well. The art could be a little better. I don't really like the cartoony style art as much. But I do like. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I'm a huge fan of this game. This is definitely my game of the week. 2-player starter kit is all I have to show right now, but March 1st, I believe they're releasing. The full pre-release comes out, and so I will have much more.
Great day.
Well,
Great
and
day.
speaking of cartoons and comic books, my game of the week actually comes from a comic book. From the people who brought us Mind MGT, is in this wonderful satchel. We've got Harrow County. This was, of course,
How could you
the
not say that's art? Look at the front of that.
Kickstarter edition. So I'll kind of unbox this here. So this one is Off the Page Games, who made this, again, Mind MGT, which is a great kind of a hidden movement game. And what's really neat about this game is it is going to be a work replacement with asymmetry within the factions, which I thought was really cool about it. There's 4 factions that come in the box, and all of them play very differently. You can have some form of bag building versus a card building faction, which allows you to kind of find that play style. So right out of Gateway Island, you'll be able to find the style of game that you love. And obviously, again, it's a lot of board control within this, trying to make sure that you gather and kind of hunt out the other effectively kind of almost like witches type of scenario within the game. It works off of almost like campaigns and stories that you're going to kind of play through. And what's kind of nice is one thing that we talked about was, again, the intimidation that you have coming into new games. And the easier you can introduce people to your game, the easier it is to get to the table. And that's one thing that this game does well is the first campaign teaches you some of the very, very basics of the game. Then the second campaign is going to introduce the next component of the game with cards. So they do a really nice campaign style to kind of welcome you into the game itself, giving you one mechanic to learn, and then the next mechanic, and it all feels kind of seamless as you're kind of learning the quote-unquote story within this gothic conflict that they have here. Probably the most famous part of this game that people have noticed is the cube tower that is actually right here in the box.
I like unique games in there, so that's pretty neat.
You actually leave this on your board game table while you play, and effectively, when you do your battles and you use these little wooden cubes, which come with the game, you're going to actually put them into the top here, and they have a nice little filter that you put on top and catches them, drops them in. But there are catchers inside this box. So you might drop 3 green cubes and 3 red cubes and 3 blue cubes in here, but you don't know what's going to fall out. And there's also going to be cubes from previous rolls that didn't come out that may come out when you drop the cubes in here this time. So it kind of adds a really neat hidden element of when you drop things in there, you don't know what's going to come out, how much is going to come out, and that adds that little extra element of, I don't want to call it, a little bit of luck, I guess, based on all of those things. So instead of rolling a classic dice, it's kind of a neat, different type of mechanic versus 5-6 is, it's red, blue cubes and what comes out. But a really neat game, one I'm really excited to dive into. 1 to 3 players.
Yeah, that's the weird part.
Yeah, that was
1 to 3 players in 45 minutes plus.
Yeah, but as Shay and I talked about, as long as it's got the 1 on there, I'm good.
You right?
All by myself. Just always by myself.
I just love
I like the comic book art of it.
I
It's
like the
pretty
comic
nice.
book art of it. I love the box decor. I love when a game does good, utility of what they have.
Right.
Like another game I play, but I'm not gonna say it.
Right.
But this one make the box the dice tower.
Yep. And it does have the Fair Folk expansion as well in this that I got with the Kickstarter. So overall, very excited about this one and excited to get it to the table more.
I really like their mind management. It is done really well.
Yeah. Yep. With that said, we're going to move on to our last segment of the show. That's going to be our Feet to the Fire. Gentlemen, I have this week's Feet to the Fire question. So, with that said, it actually ties a little bit into Harrow County. So, my question is, what makes a better game? High level of direct confrontation and interaction where players can impact each other's strategy and progress, or minimal player interaction where the focus is optimizing one's own strategy without impacting the others?
Good question.
That's a good question. I can't do
Brandon.
Okay. So my answer, I know you don't like fence sitters, and it's really not a fence sitting answer, but
So I'm going to give you a fence any answer. Okay, go ahead.
It depends on the game length. If the game is short, I want high levels of interaction between the people. If the game is long, the other way. If the game is long, I want high levels of interaction between the people because I don't want low levels of interaction in a long game where I can see that I'm losing and I know I have to sit through the next 2 hours and there's nothing I could do about catching up to the winner. But if the game is short, I don't want that interaction because I don't want to be constantly fighting each other in a short game and then the game ends and neither one of us have done anything.
Okay.
So I am very much in one camp or the other, completely dependent on how long the game is.
Okay. Shay?
Ditto.
Wow, I thought his was a cop-out, but Shay just copped the
Shay
cop-out.
copied out. I find some of the games that I enjoy being much longer, 3 to 4 hours, and they are very well, you really can't do a whole lot to screw with me. I am taking. You have the same advantages I do because the board is set up and ready to be played, and we see what's upcoming. It's not like a surprise random of dice rolling. And some of my favorite games have minimal board interaction or minimal interaction with each other, but a lot of board interaction. So I don't know if that really answers your question. I think I enjoy, as a Euro gamer, minimal player interaction. But one of my favorite games, probably top 10 games, top 7 games, is Blood Rage, which has a lot of player interaction. So it really depends on how well it's done, and it's a cop-out too. But I would have to go, if I have to set on one side of the fence or the other, I would set on the minimal player interaction.
Thanks for at least taking a side.
And because that's the games I enjoy, but they also, to fight kind of against Brandon's mentality on that, they hide who wins very well, because a lot of it's in game and you don't know what I'm cooking over here to make this in game pop, and I don't know what you're cooking, so you can't obviously tell. It isn't like a Risk game, right? Like a Risk, you're like, I'm getting my butt kicked for the next 6 hours. I'm just going to sit here and get my butt kicked. I'll go hide in Australia and hopefully I can defend myself, right? It's not like that. Or Twilight Imperium, which I don't like, to where, you know, you're losing for the next 3 or 4 hours and you're just going to have to shut up and take it. And you could visually see you're just getting your butt kicked. So if you're talking those long games, I absolutely agree with Brandon. I think it's horrible.
He wants the interaction on the long.
Yeah, game. I don't like to see me getting my butt kicked for the next whatever it is. I think that
I think the interaction helps that, right? Because if you can interact with your opponent in a long game, if you can mess with them and catch back up, then you want that, right? It's when you don't have the interaction and it's a long game and you're like, I'm losing and I'm just going to lose because there's no mechanic I have to spike kick you in the balls to take you down with me.
Yeah, but like the game we played the other day, I mean, I could obviously tell you were going to win that game 3 rounds in.
Yeah, and you complained about it for the next 45 minutes.
Yes, I did. But I also came damn close to catching you too. Right? But it wasn't obvious that you were destroying. I mean, there was hidden things there that I could come back and try to do if the right stuff came up. But that's again, that goes back to my problem of randomization of you have to be, you know. So, but I can tell you the games I enjoy the most, and I won't go through them because you know. They have minimal player interaction, a lot of board interaction, but we are all trying our strategy at the best strategy possible to win the game. And they're kind of a hidden strategy in a certain way. And you're like, boom, boom, boom. And then it all comes together. And then at the end, you're like, yeah. Or you're like, crap, it didn't work. Congratulations.
I'll be frank, like I grown up as an athlete, I think it's kind of ingrained to me to always like the head-to-head competition.
Yeah.
And the impact. And I love a lot of skirmishes or skirmish type of games like the Fantasy Brawl. And I'm super excited for my upcoming Rainbow Six Siege. One day. But and I've always enjoyed, TCGs because of that head-to-head competition, chess, crokinole. I mean, my favorite game of all time that's not a board game is dome hockey, super checks with that. So to me, I always enjoy the bit of the head-to-head interaction, regardless of how long the game is. Even a shorter game like a Villainous, I like being able to, while I'm still working my own board, trying to accomplish my own missions, I'm still able to manipulate the effects of somebody
it's kind of
else.
minimal.
It's minimal, but it's still, you still can cause harm to what they're trying to accomplish by putting the heroes on their board that impact where they can go and how they can interact with their own board, or like Unmatched, which I play with my son a lot. Again, that's just a straight skirmish game.
Yeah, 1v1.
And to me, that even games like Heat, still have that bit of strategy and interaction because you're positioning your car based on corners.
But there's nothing he can do.
That's not true. You can block people out.
But that's very hard.
Yeah,
it's hard to do, but it can still happen.
Yeah, it's not like
but it's not like he's
Mario
playing
Party.
you spin out or through like a drop.
I could drop a little banana behind me. It's not that.
No, but the whole thing is literally me trying to outpace you.
Yeah, I mean
which
that
is a head-to-head
No,
game.
it's completely random by what cards are you drawing in your hand.
Yeah, again, you still have to have a strategy.
You guys have strategy.
You have bonus cards,
but I don't.
You have
see
your special cards that you can use at different times.
But I don't see it as. Let me phrase it. I do see it more as a head-to-head game, but I don't see us going to.
There's not a whole lot of player interaction.
It's not player interaction.
It's me playing my hand the best I can play it, you playing your hand the best you can play, or your deck the best you can play it, and deciding when to push your luck, when not to, because that's a very key element in it. Is when I push my luck and when I don't, because you can catch yourself off guard. But you don't get to decide. Oh, I left a banana peel on turn 2. Good luck getting around it.
You can still block players down.
Yeah,
by
and then
two cars wide.
There is, but I mean, it's rather hard to do.
There's more trying to figure it out on your engine more than, because there is a little player interaction, but it's not as much as like a dice thrown or like
all the other games you named are very player interaction.
Yes, my point is, yes. I mean, let's not fixate just on the one game. My point being is that
you like those games.
I find those kind of games that have just any sort of element of interaction.
Now, question: if you like for me, this is why it's hard for me. If I play a lot of solo games and it's just me getting my butt kicked because of the things I've did, if I'm doing the playing by myself and having a little bit, or am I going after somebody else, which is me?
But it's your strategy. The problem with solo games, and this is the problem I have with it, there's a lot of randomization in order for you to lose or win. You could roll right every time in Final Girl and just destroy the bad guy if you can make the right rolls every time. If every time you roll the dice, you can guarantee... if you could cheat and turn it to whatever you want it to be,
and nobody's there to really gauge,
and then you could push right through the entire scenarios and be like, I destroyed it. Same scenario that I hear people when they say, "Oh, I beat that Robinson Crusoe." Me and my wife beat that. I'm like, you guys cheated. There's no way you have beat that game. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It gets to a point where it's so hard at the end that you're lucky to survive a week, much less win it. Like, it's ridiculous. So yes, I get your point, but no, that's again randomization.
I can't give you my answer because again, it's hard for
you
me.
already gave your answer. It was ditto.
I can give you my wife's answer, and that's head to head. She wants to take me down.
Yeah.
And I don't.
And she
care.
enjoys that.
And she enjoys
that's
that.
her part about a board
That's
games.
one I could be definitive. That's the answer.
And that's my wife too. I can't play a game with her
don't.
that I don't have a good chance of losing. Like if I try to pull out a heavier game that I enjoy, there's a lot of strategy involved. She's checking out, man. She's not doing it. But if I pull out Coffee Rush,
I was thinking
she's ready to smack the crap out of me. Because
ironically, my wife is the exact opposite because she hates competitive games. So I've had to try to find co-op games to make it less of a competition. As I've shared before in the podcast, Clink was like the first time where she played a head-to-head, if you will, and she actually was okay
Did she win?
with it. No, she lost.
See, what you have to do is lose more to her, and then she
Can't do
enjoys
that.
beating you down.
It's not authentic.
And then she'll play anything
Nope.
because she's ready. She
what.
thinks she can take you.
Every shot my son shoots on the basketball hoop gets stuffed right back in his face. Get
Take
good.
that, little man.
Get good, son. Make those moves. I need those jukes.
Such a
So,
great dad.
With that, we'll go ahead and wrap up there, gentlemen. Great show this week. A lot to think about. So again, whether it's augmented reality, whether it's what are those extra 6 mechanics that we don't know what they are? Maybe
I'm definitely can't wait for the game to come out so I can find out.
Maybe we need to get Jamie from Van Ryder Games on here again so she can explain to
Gateway
us the
Island
mysterious.
is what I need.
Yeah.
But no matter what it is, if you could subscribe, and definitely leave a comment on this video. Let us know what you think on all those different topics.
Don't forget about ringing the bell. You have to tell them to ring the bell.
Ring the bell.
Ring the bell.
There you go. So you can be up. I got you. So ring the bell so you can be updated to all our different videos that we have.
There we go. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap this week's episode. Look forward to seeing you soon. And remember, champions never stop playing.